You know, when that's an extra cookie on your cookie platter, that's going to make all the rest fall off. And you have to say, all right, I can take that on. But what would you like me to get rid of with the rest of my time? Because I'm booked. I love that new one. Okay, but what are you going to take off my plate if I take that on? And they're like, huh? They just expect you to do it. Hey there, friends. This is Dr. Charlie Hornes, and I'm so excited to welcome you this week to my podcast, The Art of Managing Your Brain. And this week, I cannot wait to talk to you about thought work and mind management. And today we're going to talk about something that I think that every high-achieving woman out in leadership, especially if you're trying to navigate male-dominated spaces, if you're feeling the weight of constant expectations, if you've ever felt like you need to prove yourself 10 times over, I love that old quote about Ginger Rogers saying that she could do everything Fred Astaire did, just backwards and in heels. If you're feeling like you have to do that in order to just stay afloat, or if you're worried that speaking up when things are going difficult, when you're in a situation, if you're being talked over, if you're not being heard, if you're concerned about just, voicing your opinion because you're going to be painted as too emotional or too difficult, or if, you have a problem with somebody and then they tell you that you're just too sensitive, all that stuff. Today we're going to talk about all of that. This episode is for you if you're resonating with any of what I'm talking about, because I knew all of this way too well. So we're going to be uncovering this ancient survival mechanism. And you've heard me talk about it before, but I want to talk about it in the context of women leaders who are in male-dominated fields at work, in their vocational spaces. And it's about the herd instinct, but we're going to put a little spin on that differently today and how it's impacting your daily life. So this instinct, it pushes us to belong and to fit in, and sometimes to do so at the expense of our own well-being and our own professional goals. So by the end of this episode, I hope that you will have some practical tools to meet these unreasonable expectations and meet them with grace and with poise and with confidence, like real confidence. I'm not talking about, just get confident. No, I mean, let's get you some real confidence so that you don't have to feel like you're betraying yourself. You don't have to have those fight, flight, freeze moments. You don't have to second guess yourself, question yourself. You can actually just show up and do what you want.
I'm Dr. Charlie Hornes, highly anxious people pleaser turned master certified professional life coach. Learning to manage my brain was so life-changing for me that I got certified so that I could teach these incredible evidence-based practices to you. Are you ready for massive change? Let's go.
So you may be able to tell that this topic is extremely close to my heart, and probably yours too, if you've ever felt buried under impossible expectation. So today we're breaking down why these pressures feel so relentless and how to manage them with calm and resilience, even when things feel completely out of control. But before we dive into that, can I ask you a quick favor? If you're finding this content valuable, please just take a couple of seconds to leave a review below on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps me reach more listeners just like you. And you're helping people that you don't know. You're helping anonymous people, anonymous women out there in leadership that are struggling with these very same issues. And we together can equip them. But people don't listen to podcasts that don't have great reviews. So I really could use your help. People, they want practical, powerful tools to help them thrive in their lives and their careers. And of course, if you know someone who could benefit from today's episode or previous episodes, please go ahead and share it with them. Thank you so much for helping grow this community. And I'm also super thrilled to share something special with you. If you missed last week's episode, I am offering you a limited time holiday flash sale on my masterclass bundle. I have bundled my two most popular masterclasses, one about confidence mastery and the other one is about resilience mastery. And it's designed for those that want to dive a little bit deeper, especially right now during the holidays, because this time of year can be a little rough for many people. Believe me, I've been there. So I'm offering both of these bundled for just $47, and you can get access to both my confidence mastery and my resilience mastery master classes. And they're tailored to help you tackle the unique challenges that we discuss here every single week. The confidence mastery is a basics course where we address internal roadblocks like self-doubt, overthinking, low confidence. And I give you 3 very simple steps in how to address this immediately. And these are the things that keep us blocked and out of reach of our full potential. So with this mastery class, you're just going to walk away with those 3 simple steps, tools that are going to help you feel more confident, more empowered, and feel like you can make choices without second guessing yourself. The second masterclass is more of an intensive. This is a 5-step simple solution, and it deals with external issues, how to handle difficult people, chaotic environments, and those high pressure situations that seem to throw everything out of balance. It's about your mindset. So once you get these sort of 5 steps down, your mindset just changes. It shifts. I love to talk about mind shift. This is the basics of that. So it's an intensive on those 5 steps. Imagine being able to face these challenges without feeling reactive or overwhelmed, not feeling so conflict averse all the time, not feeling intimidated and afraid of other people when they're being jerks. I mean, yeah, that's what this bundle's going to get for you. Okay. So normally they're both going to be priced at $197, but for the holiday season, sort of like, a Black Friday sale, you're going to get them both for $47, but this is just for a limited time. So if you really want them, you need to run over to my website, charliehornesscoaching.com/flash sale. Okay. And if you're not sure which of those 2 areas you want to start with, the confidence or the resilience, sort of the internal pathway or the external pathway, I have a free quiz. It's the Thought Saboteur quiz, finding the mind trap that is blocking your success. This quick quiz helps you uncover the thought pattern that might be holding you back and sabotaging your success. And it gives you a lot of personalized insight and steps to get you started. It's a great way to dip your toes into thought work, and it leads directly to the tools that we cover in both masterclasses. And it's extensive insight on which thought pattern is your saboteur. So I'm really excited for folks to find out what that is. And please leave me comments, reviews, any kind of information on how it's working for you. Did the quiz work? Did we get it right? And how the insights were, if you found them to be helpful. So if you're curious about what your particular thought pattern trap is that's sabotaging your success, then run over to my quiz at charliehornesscoaching.com/quiz. That's charliehornesscoaching.com/quiz. And don't forget that special holiday offer on the master classes, because that's not going to last very long. So we're going to dive in really quick, and we're going to look more in depth at what we've been talking about, this herd instinct, right? When we've talked about tribal patterns in primitive times, one of the oldest survival mechanisms that we have is the herd instinct. So let's just do a recap. My other episodes have just sort of like generally gone over them, but we're going to talk a little more in depth about it and how it actually addresses your vocation, your career, your promotional path, moving forward, getting raises, salaries, new titles, all the things that you deserve, that you've worked for. Okay, so thousands of years ago, belonging to a group was absolutely necessary for your survival. Being part of that type of tribe in primitive times, it meant protection, resources, and support. So in our brains, being liked and accepted still equals, in our, survival brain, in our amygdala, it equals safety. Your brain thinks you're safe when people like you. It makes no sense today. This ancient survival mechanism in our brains basically is useless. However, we don't know that. And it's absolutely automatic. So this is the problem. Here's the challenge. That same instinct shows up in our modern lives, particularly when we face high expectations. Expectations that we know off the top of our head, right out of the gate, are too much. But then we get stuck. We feel like we have to people please. We have to meet the expectations. We're afraid we're not going to, be thought of. We have all of these sort of conditions that fall onto our plate. And then we don't know what to do. We don't know how to say no. Look, it's not that you don't know how to say no. Okay. There's a lot of stuff happening in your life right now that you perfectly well know that you need to say no to. What are the outside forces working when you're in those situations? It's not that you necessarily are afraid to say no, and it's not that you can't identify the thing you need to say no to. It's the other external forces. What people are going to think of you, how people are going to react. What are people going to feel when you put up that boundary and you say, I can't? There's all of these things that are external forces that create significant pressure upon us, like a vice. And it makes us feel like we're being forced into, acquiescing or agreement to go along with the flow. It's very insidious. It builds up, it snowballs, right? This is all pointing back to the survival mechanism, this urge to fit in and be accepted. And it makes it that much harder to say no, especially when we are in our vocations, often male-dominated environments where we are feeling pressure to conform. And that can feel overwhelming because we're still in this time in our lives for women in leadership where we're expected to behave like our male counterparts and colleagues, right? We're expected to have the Donna Reed at home who's, you're living on one salary and somebody's taking care of the kids, picking them up, making dinner, doing the laundry, buying the groceries, running, little Timmy to soccer practice, yada, yada. And that is not the life that we working women live in today. We do not have a third wife at home. We don't have Donna Reed waiting on us, in her apron and heels in the kitchen with, lipstick. Like, oh, come on. I would never do that anyway. Men still have some of that because working women take up the responsibilities still in the home. We work what is known as the second shift. And I believe this comes from Rosemary Ruther, a feminist from several decades ago, 40 something years to be exact. This second shift, a 4-hour additional work day that typically men don't have. Now, men can choose more or less, or they can choose to go play golf, right? Or go out to the bar, whatever. But typically, and I'm generalizing here because I have a very 90s husband, right? He's a very 90s husband. He does dishes, he does laundry, he takes care of kids, all the things, changing diapers and pickup and all this, all this stuff. And yet still, I have an expectation that I probably do more of the homemaking. Not that I'm good at it, because I'm definitely not good at that. I'd rather be working, honestly. There are expectations that women are still supposed to behave like our male counterparts. Often the workspace is not created for this shared salary, right? This double income that most people in this day and age have to have. I don't know any couples that live on one salary. Maybe you do. None of my friends None of my family, nobody I know. I cannot tell you one person that I know that lives on one salary. Now, I do know a few people who have chosen to be stay-at-home moms, and that's amazing because I could never do that. They are my heroes, but they've done it strategically, right? They've created some savings, or they worked and then they took time off. So there's all of these sort of conditions. You just don't wake up one day, get married, and, just sort of have that middle class life and you live on one salary. It doesn't happen anymore. The expectation to still behave like our male colleagues who have a wife at home who picks up more of the domestic labor. Again, it may have been Ruther who called it free domestic labor. I would love to hear comments. Is that your experience too? Are you also working the second shift? Do you have the additional 4-hour work day that often our male colleagues don't have? Which, here's the other piece of that. They can put those hours towards their work. They can stay late. They can bring work home. They can work over the weekend. They can, hole up in their office until it's dark and finish that project. Meanwhile, we're rushing to, do pickup and, like I said, Timmy's soccer practice, or, get the groceries, pick up groceries on the way home. And, there's all these conveniences, and yet we're still doing this stuff. So I would love to hear if you are still feeling like you carry more of the weight at home, or if you feel like it's pretty 50-50 now. Like for us, we divide and conquer when it comes to like housekeeping and, dinner and chores and stuff like that. But still there is this societal expectation. There's a expectation of my husband that he would work harder, work longer, and that I would be more flexible. There has always been that expectation that we've had to fight against. I remember, here's a fun anecdote. I remember being at work, and I worked hours my husband was off. And he would show up with the kids when there was some sort of work event, and they would praise him for babysitting and say, oh, what a wonderful husband. And my kids would not be matching in their clothes. Maybe they're in pajamas. I was lucky if shoes matched. Definitely teeth not brushed, hair, not combed. And they just thought he was a saint. And when I was expected, to do anything around my husband's job, we all had to be very perfect, right? And it wasn't my husband's expectations. It was, society, or it was me feeling pressure. Again, back to these expectations. I was feeling this pressure not to let him down, or, and meanwhile, he's like the best babysitter ever. Really? Come on now. I know that that there are things that we have to say no to, but it's not that easy. It is extremely complicated. Why? Because of all of this socialization, and a lot of it is patriarchal socialization. This expectation that women have a certain role, self-identified cishet women and self-identified cishet men have a certain role, and we're all supposed to sort of, goose step into this particular pattern. The actual routines of our lives today are not that way. It's not our story. We're all working. We all need to work late hours. We all need to try to get that promotion. We all need to try to get that salary raise. And here's what's really interesting. We as women, we have a double barrier that men do not have to deal with every day. Let me explain what this is. First off, there's the gender bias gap, right? We walk in, we make less money, we get a lot more of the work, we get a lot more of the grunt work. We also get a lot of the sort of free domestic labor at work, like scheduling the birthday parties, picking up the birthday cake, getting everybody's birthday written down. I mean, all of these sort of housewife jobs, right? But we're doing them at work. There's an expectation that we get it done. And if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done by us. It doesn't get done at all. So a lot of women just take it upon themselves to do all of this extra free labor, right? So we walk in with a gender bias gap of less money, more expectations, more work. The second part of that, the other piece of the double barrier is that we don't walk in with trust often, whereas our male counterparts, they walk in fully trusted and have to lose that trust. Women have to earn the trust. We see that everywhere. You see that, for example, with politicians. Anytime we have here in the US a woman running for something, they are highly criticized. They are said, when have they ever done this, that, and the other? And they're, things are said about them, whether you agree with them or not, that you don't say about the white, straight, cishet, male, person running. You don't ask the same questions ever. So we have these two things when we walk into a position that is out of our control. You know the expectations that you should say no to. You know when you're overloaded. You know when you're working beyond what you should be. You know when you're exhausted. It's not that you don't know. And it's not that you don't know to say no. It's that it's nearly impossible with the patriarchal socialization that everyone is expected to, hop to, and the societal expectations that people have about gender roles that is still extremely present here, especially in the United States. The repercussions of bucking that system for women is so much more stark that we'd rather just get it done because that's what we do, right? We're competent, we're capable, we're hireable, and we just get shit done, right? I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. I'm just going to get it done. And it sucks because it takes a lot more of my time and energy, but it gets done rather than have to argue with you and explain to you when you don't even see what patriarchal socialization is because you're so steeped in it. You don't see yourself doing it. This is complicated and it's not about you at all. Nothing about this is about you. This is absolutely like categorical for most every working woman who also has a home they need to sustain, which is every human that I know who happens to be female. This is often why we feel compelled to meet expectations, even when we know they're unreasonable. Here's a grounding thought for you. So every time you feel pressure to meet an expectation that doesn't align with your values or needs, which you feel it, you get the spidey sense tingling of that's not okay. And then you have to, in the moment, decide, including your emotions going like haywire because you feel either attacked or fight or flight, or you're under pressure, or you don't want to disappoint, or you don't want to not get the promotion because you're not a team player. In that moment, we need to remind ourselves that this urge to simply meet the expectations of other people is your brain's way of keeping you in the herd. It's a survival reaction. It is your automatic nervous system coming online. It is your sympathetic nervous system engaging. It is your HPA axis getting ready to start firing and dropping neurotransmitters through your body. And it is trying to keep you from dying. Now, saying no to picking up somebody's birthday card is not a dying situation, but your body doesn't know the difference. Your body thinks it is. Your body thinks if you say no to the herd master, right, or your boss or, dude next door who's a jerk, that you're going to get kicked out of the herd, or you're going to get pushed to the side where, the cougars eat you. Taking people off the sides and you've been shoved over there because you don't buy the birthday card. That's what your brain thinks. Tell me how absurd that sounds to you. That your brain literally thinks you're going to die if you say no to picking up someone's birthday card on your way home because you don't freaking have time to do that. Okay? And yet, how many of us just go, fine, So this is not about you having bad boundaries. This is not about you not understanding how to say no to expectations. This is literally your brain hijacking you. This is that fun amygdala hijacking stuff, which I'm going to talk about soon. And it's taking over and it's making it feel impossible to say no and protect yourself. So it's like absolutely counterintuitive, right? It's trying to save you by putting you in a situation where you're not protecting your own boundaries. Like, we are living in an upside down world right now when it comes to our neurobiology and our neurobehavioral patterns and science and all that. Like, we're upside down. That's why it feels crappy. Not because something's wrong with you, not because you don't know how to say no to expectations that are absolutely unreasonable. It's because your brain thinks you're going to die if you say no. It's your survival reaction. So just because you feel the need to meet someone's expectation in the moment doesn't mean you have to act on it. Okay, now how does the survival response play out specifically for women in male-dominated spaces? So for many of you high-achieving women out there, the stakes, they feel even higher. The instinct to avoid conflict or to not make waves is often magnified in environments where you may feel like you're under a microscope. You might worry about being labeled again as, too assertive. That's a new one, right? Too shrill, too emotional, too dramatic, sometimes even too ambitious. If you didn't hear my episode a couple weeks back with retired chief in the Air Force, Casey Boomershine, Chief Boom, go back and listen to that, because she was a drill sergeant and was told she was too confident. This is also where the imposter syndrome stuff sneaks in. We have this pressure as women in leadership to prove ourselves and to meet every single expectation. And this can sometimes make you feel like you're constantly auditioning for a role that you've already earned. Like, you're already hired. You're already hireable. You've already earned the credentialing and the education and the training and the experience and the certification. And you still feel like you're in America's Got Talent or whatever. Simon Cowell is sitting there judging whether or not you can still audition for the job you already have. This can be exhausting and it can be demoralizing. But here's the truth. The urge to conform is often more about your brain's desire to fit in than it is about any real lack on your part. I'm telling you, once you start to understand the science of all this, and you start to understand this really has nothing to do with a lack on your part. It 99% has to do with A, your survival brain being upside down in today's world, and B, socialized patriarchy and societal expectations. But we don't have to jump to that tune. We don't have to dance to that drum. We don't have to. It just feels like we have to in our brains. And that's a lie. That's what learning thought work is about, is understanding your thoughts are not real, but they are what create your feeling. Other people's thoughts about you, their opinion, their expectations, all of that. It's not real. It's not based in any fact. It's an opinion that has been generated through their experience and their story and their own level of socialized patriarchy and socialized expectations of what they expect of you. That was made out of nothing. It was thought up from thin air. It was taught to them, flipping through somebody's discarded copy of Cosmo on an airplane back in the day. It's not based in reality or fact. And you feeling like you cannot push back is also not based in reality or fact. So those two things are very important. Understanding the thought work behind this, understanding that survival mechanism piece that underscores thought work, and also understanding socialized patriarchy and socialized expectations that, again, none of it is based in reality. So take a moment to think about a recent situation where you felt pressure to meet somebody else's expectations, especially in a way that you knew didn't align with your true self. You know it. You know it. It's not like you don't know. Perhaps it was a project that you took on even when you were overloaded, or maybe it was staying silent in a meeting when you wanted to speak up. Maybe it's somebody taking credit for your idea or never giving you a second chance to talk, or maybe they're interrupting you. Notice how that pressure felt in your body. Again, we go back to that somatic work, right? Because we don't feel thoughts. We feel feelings, but it's the thought that creates the feelings. As we were running through the model, the 5 steps of the model, which is part of the masterclass you're going to learn if you grab that bundle right now. The result, if it's not what you like, you have to back that up and see what action you took to get the result. Well, your actions are determined by how you feel, because you want to often stop feeling that way. Often our actions are based on, we feel yucky. We want to stop feeling yucky. So we do something often knee jerk, and then we don't get a result we want. And those feelings that cause that action are created by our thoughts, but we don't feel thought. We can feel result and we can feel feeling, but we don't feel circumstance, which is step 1. We don't feel, action necessarily, unless it's like physical action, but that's not what we're talking about here. And we don't feel thought. So it's always great to notice where something feels in your body, because then you can track the thought creating it. Did you feel tense? Did you feel stressed? I mean, remember, this reaction isn't about weakness. It's about a natural result of your brain's survival mechanism at play. So your brain kicks out a thought in your head about whatever the circumstance is. That creates an immediate feeling. And often we don't even stop to think about what the thought is or what the feeling is. We just act on it or don't act on it because it feels awful. But you have to dig deeper. You have to dig under all of this. You have to, what I call, get yourself up into that aerial view, right? I love to talk about a storm system because it's very similar to looking at the systemic stuff we're dealing with, especially as women in leadership. So I often use a storm metaphor, and I write about this, and it's also on my website. You can always go to the homepage. I've got a little writing about that as well. It's like women are the shore that gets pummeled by the hurricane, whereas men get to stand in the nice, calm eye, move along, chill with the storm, and they get to decide if they want to go in and mess with the, storm wall or not. What I need you to do is get an aerial view of the storm system. My job is to lift you out of the storm, unroot you. You're rooted so deeply into that shore, and you're so used to getting pummeled, and you're so used to just like treading water and hoping that you'll survive. And once you begin to understand, seeing your thoughts, creating your feelings, causing your actions that are giving you the results you have, and once you see below the surface, and you see the inner workings of what this is that's going on, that automatically catapults you into this aerial view so that you're not facing the storm head on. You're looking down and you're seeing the entire system for what it is, and it's not affecting you because you're not in it anymore. You don't have to stop doing anything. You just have to get equipped to see it from a different perspective. That's the mind shift. That's the paradigm shift that I'm teaching. I need you, listen to me. I need you to get in the plane with me and look down and see this storm system from the aerial view. How can we start to break free from the pressure and make choices that align with who we are? One of the most effective ways is to pause before responding to any demand. Now, that's really hard to say. I've been trying to learn that my whole life until I learned thought work. There's no way I was going to do that. I'm like, yeah. How many times have you told me, pause before I open my mouth, pause before I do something, blah, blah, blah. My reactions are knee-jerk because I'm working out of my survival mechanism that thinks that I'm going to die. And so it has taken over. And Maybe I say stupid crap or do stupid crap or I don't know, talk back or whatever the thing is that we do in the moment when we're really, really triggered or when that button gets pushed, right? So it's not easy to do unless you understand why you're doing it. Unless you can see from the aerial view and become what my coach calls a watcher. See, now when I'm in this kind of moment, I can watch them and me. And I can have this third perspective in the moment. It's not even a pause because I started with working with pauses, but now I watch. I can see what's happening. I can see the storm system as it's swirling around below me, as it's trying to come at me. And I go, whoop, instead of like, yeah, that's what we've got to do here. That's the work. So just taking a pause is hard unless you understand why you need to do it and what it is that's happening. And you can become a watcher of what is going on within you and around you. So once you get there through learning thought work, you can assess whether these expectations truly align with your goals, your values, and your capacity. So here's a powerful question to ask yourself when you're facing the demands like unreasonable expectation. Is this expectation, is it reasonable? Or is it just my brain trying to keep me safe within the herd? Is this herd mentality? Is this herd survival instincts? Often, you'll find that the pressure is more about your brain's instinct to stay within rather than the actual expectation itself. So the next time you feel the pull to meet an expectation, try labeling it simply as this is a survival reaction. This is my brain trying to keep me safe. This immediate fear of not saying yes, this immediate fear of saying no, this immediate second guessing myself when I immediately know I don't have time for this, or this is ridiculous, or I'm not paid for this. And I don't mean I don't get paid for that. Like, we don't appreciate people that work for us saying that. I would never say that, right? If I'm working a job and the toilet needs to get cleaned, I'm going to clean it, right? I'm not going to sit there and say, this isn't my job. What I'm saying is free domestic labor expectations over and over again in your vocational life. That's something different. Okay. If you're the person who's always picking up the birthday cards or the birthday cake or the cupcakes, and it's not necessarily bringing you joy because it's interfering with your capacity to take care of the rest of your life, but you're feeling like you're not allowed to say no, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. That is not what you're paid to do. That is not what you were hired to do. And you are being taken advantage of, or you're being shoved in a socialized role. That is none of your business. Okay. Because somebody's belief system about how you should behave, again, is based in nothing factual and is totally made up. So doing this, asking this question, understanding that yuck feeling is often your survival reaction, allows you to take a step back and decide how you're going to respond rather than acting out on the impulse. This shift in perspective, it turns unreasonable expectations into opportunities to practice thought work, choosing how you respond based on what you truly need. So now let's get really specific. Okay. What actually makes expectations reasonable? So in high stakes or competitive environments, it's really easy to assume that we're responsible for meeting every single demand. I know I felt that way. Not all expectations deserve our time, our energy, or our attention. So a helpful exercise here is to ask yourself, whose standard is this? Where did this standard come from? Often, expectations reflect someone else's agenda, not necessarily what's best for you. Often, they don't even know they're doing it. They just have an expectation. So when you identify this, you can see these expectations as reflections of other people's needs, other people's thoughts, other people's opinions, and other people's insecurities. It's not law that you're bound to follow. It's not. And it's a matter of your own mindset as to whether or not somebody can put that on you. That's up to you and your mindset. That's why we've got to have a mind shift, a shift in your perspective. Here's something practical that you can try. When an expectation arises, make a mental note. Mentally step back and visualize this situation from a bird's eye view. Imagine yourself observing this expectation. Note it. Label it. See it. Slap a Post-it on it and start with how you feel. If you feel yuck and somebody's doing, hey, when that's an extra cookie on your cookie platter, that's going to make all the rest fall off. And you have to say, all right, I can take that on, but what would you like me to get rid of with the rest of my time? Because I'm booked. I love that new one. Okay, but what are you going to take off my plate if I take that on? And they're like, huh? They just expect you to do it. Get in the plane. This aerial view gives you a clear picture of the situation, and it creates space for you to decide rather than react automatically. Let's say you've identified an expectation as unreasonable, an extra cookie that's going to go on your cookie platter that's going to knock everything else off, right? Because you've got it balanced perfectly. And you're ready to set a boundary. So the next step is once you identify the feeling, once you can get the aerial view, once you can say, this isn't based in anything, my brain is just trying to keep me in the herd. The next step is communicating this with grace. Because once you understand that other people don't really understand their own thoughts, they don't understand that they're putting upon you made up stuff that you don't have to listen to. And it's not based in anything. They don't even understand that most of the time. I didn't know when I said no to somebody, I was saying no to something that they had just invented, that they got off TV, that they learned growing up. There's a lot of great socialization that we should follow. Like, let's not walk around naked. Probably a good idea with our society today. But, being a cupcake queen at the office, that's made up. That's useless unless you find joy in it. So once you can identify all of these things, which is the work, using I statements allows you to focus on your own needs without escalating a situation. So instead of saying, that's just too much, I can't do that, blah, blah, blah. You say, look, I'm working within my current capacity. I need to focus on my main priorities or the team's priorities. This approach keeps the conversation grounded, respectful, and it centers on your values. What do you have time for? What do you value that you want to make time for? What do you not want to do? And what will you be resentful for? Because it's also not honest when you say yes to things and then turn around and be resentful of them. That is not honesty. That's basically lying. Yeah, I'll take that on. And then you're pissed off. People don't know. Most people, we're dealing with socialized patriarchy. It's also ingrained that most people don't even understand what they're doing is not helpful. They're just doing what they think they're supposed to do or what they think you're supposed to do. We have to help educate our fellow colleagues and neighbors that their expectations of us aren't real. And I'm not going to say yes to stuff that is made up, that you expect me to do just because, or that you don't expect me to do, or that, you don't let me speak, or you don't this, that, and the other. But when you see it from the aerial view, you don't have to get emotional about it. They don't even get a chance to call you emotional because you're not going to care. It is what it is. It's made up. The response to it is going to be made up. And their thoughts are creating their feelings. And if they get mad about it, it's because their thoughts make them mad. You're not even responsible for how they feel or what they do. It's their thoughts. So it's about setting the boundary, but without compromising the relationship or feeling like you're rocking the boat unnecessarily, because you're not. You're just saying, that's not a thing, and I don't have to do it. And you have empathy for people that don't understand why. It's like building a muscle, strengthening with each intentional choice. Every time you pause, assess an expectation, and decide how to respond. Every time you do this, you're reinforcing your mental resilience. And you're reminding yourself that most every pressure around you that's putting you in a vice is made up socialization that somebody is immersed in and is convinced is the right way to do things. But it's just their opinion. And it came out of nowhere. Nothing. And you don't have to do it. And you don't have to be responsible for how they feel about that, because their thoughts create their feelings. So they're going to have a thought about that. And that's great. They can change their thought. Just like you can change your thought. Okay. And that's how you reinforce this mental resilience. This is the key. You're showing your brain that it's safe to prioritize what matters to you, even if it means not meeting every demand of others. And when you show your brain it's safe, you reverse this upside down and you reorient your brain and its useful functioning. And you kickstart your evolved prefrontal cortex and you hijack your brain hijacked from your amygdala back to your thinking brain. Once you really start to understand this and you work that muscle and you retrain your brain and you have a paradigm shift, a mind shift, and you see the aerial view, you get the new perspective and you understand what's happening. You rewire your brain to stop thinking you're unsafe when you're expected to pick up cupcakes and you want to say no. You just get to say no now and not worry about it, even if this means not meeting these demands. So think about each small boundary, each mindful response as a brick in a foundation that makes you stronger, more assured of yourself, makes you a more confident version of yourself. And you're going to meet that self soon if you keep doing this work. And your future self is already thanking you for starting to build these muscles, because soon it won't feel yucky anymore. Soon it'll start being funny. You're teaching your brain that survival doesn't have to mean self-sacrifice. And over time, these small actions, they're going to add up to this profound shift that's going to throw you into the airplane with me. It's going to shift how you handle pressure, not just in work, but in every area of your life. So learning how to handle unreasonable expectations with grace is a powerful skill, because it means that you are watching and observing socialization. It's a powerful skill that allows you to protect your time and your energy for what really matters to you, what your boundaries are, what your values are. And it's not about rejecting other people. It's not about being ugly. It's about choosing what aligns with your path, your goals, your values, your capacity, and then living into that and realizing that you're not responsible for how other people feel. So as you practice this, you'll find that life feels a little lighter, that you're moving with more purpose, or you find your purpose again, because as I've said before, the kryptonite to burnout is purpose. So if today's episode resonates with you, please consider sharing it with a friend. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Download, follow, and I would love reviews, comments, any kind of engagement. It would be so helpful, because that's how this is going to get out in front of other women that need to learn about this really powerful work. So I'd love you to join our community of women reclaiming their power and confidence through thought work. Get in the plane. Let's go. If you're curious to dive deeper, again, I invite you to take that quiz. It's sort of the thought saboteur quiz that is going to tell you what thought pattern is trapping you and getting in the way of your success. So grab that at charliehornesscoaching.com/quiz. This quiz is going to help you identify the specific thought pattern that's holding you back, and it gives you actionable insights to start shifting them. And don't forget that masterclass holiday bundle for $47. Grab that at charliehornesscoaching.com/flash sale. And again, I really hope you will share this episode and our show with people that you think might be finding it helpful in their own lives. So thank you for tuning in to The Art of Managing Your Brain. Again, I'm Dr. Charlie Horness. And remember, you don't have to be in the storm. You're above it. You're seeing it for what it is, and you're taking control with calm and clarity. So join me next week, and we will continue this journey towards a life where you can feel empowered, steady, and resilient. I'll see you next time.